Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Jordan's Journey. I'm Jordan Dynes, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my life's purpose of becoming a teacher. Growing up, I practically lived in the classroom. My mom was a middle school science and leadership teacher, and every day after going to school myself, I would head to her school where I'd watch her make lesson plans for the next day. Throughout my life, I knew that I wanted to one day have a job that could help improve the lives of as many people as possible. I soon learned that my academic strength was writing. Initially, I thought I wanted to become a journalist, where I could help tell the compelling narratives of people and show how special they are. In college, I wrote about sensitive topics like students who had suffered from stroke and depression. I also wrote about some not-so-sensitive topics like college sports and the evil squawking geese. In order to build upon my writing skills and to continue to help improve the lives of others, I got a job at my university's writing center as a writing consultant. After working with hundreds of wonderful college students and seeing their growth, I realized that I was not meant to be a journalist, but a teacher. How had I not seen it sooner? Teaching was my calling. Teaching is everything that could allow me to reach my true purpose. Instead of telling the narratives of students as a journalist, I would support students in gaining the courage to share their powerful stories when they were ready. I wanted to help create an inclusive environment and support every student's learning. Every single individual has the ability to change the world. As a teacher, I could fulfill my own sacred duty of making education a safe place. That brings us to our next topic for today's show, resiliency. Remaining resilient through tough life experiences can be tremendously difficult. One of my first true tests of remaining resilient was when my grandpa, my best friend, was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. During the first month of college, my dad called me with the tragic news. My life instantly was flipped upside down. Being super far away from my Rancho Cucamonga home, I was attending the University of Nevada, Reno. For the first time in my life, I was having difficulty focusing on my schoolwork. My usual upbeat and optimistic self felt gloomy. I felt so much guilt not being able to be there for him. One night, after talking to my grandpa on the phone, he told me that as long as I worked hard, everything would work out in the end. Over the next year, I worked harder than I ever had in my entire life. When my grandpa had passed away after a year-long battle with the treacherous disease, his values were instilled in my soul. Although he is no longer with us physically, I feel his presence every single day. Throughout my college career, I remained resilient no matter what obstacle was thrown at me. I realized that as long as I remained resilient, then everything would work out, and let me tell you, it always has. I anticipate having to exercise resilience in a variety of different ways as a teacher. Once I'm officially a first-year high school English teacher, it will be important for me to develop the best teaching strategy. This might take me a little while to find, and this could become frustrating. It will be important for me to remain positive and resilient until I find the best teaching style that suits me. Also, I will remain patient with myself during this process. Speaking of patience, it will be important for me to be patient with all of my students. Each student may have their own individual learning style and way of expressing themselves. While everyone is in a process of learning about themselves, high school is an extremely important stage in humans' development. I will need to be patient with students because they may have a million different things going on in their own lives. Last thing regarding resilience and patience. I want to stress to my students the virtue of patience because it will really help guide them through their endeavors. According to Proverbs 14:29, whoever is patient has great understanding, but one who is quick-tempered displays folly. This proverb expresses my faith and how it must intersect with my role as a teacher, because taking the time to learn and understand your students will not only help make them trust you, but it will make it easier to determine how to help them with their academics and anything that they might be struggling with. While there haven't been any significant cultural beliefs that have influenced my desire to become a teacher, my personal experiences surrounding education have sparked my moxie to become a teacher. Referencing earlier in the podcast, most of my news stories that I wrote for my journalism classes in college involved education in some aspect. Even my geese story involved their presence on college campuses. Education is in my blood, and it is something that I will always want to surround myself with. During my sophomore year in college, I took a criminal justice class that really sparked my desire to become an educator. The class focused on community policing in a multicultural world. The biggest takeaway from that class is that education can help any individual rise out of even the worst social and economic situation. I want to create a classroom that centers around equity and inclusion. No matter what a student's economic, cultural, or social background is, I will do everything in my power to foster a classroom environment where social justice occurs and every student will have the same opportunity to overcome any hardship they are facing in their own lives. During my junior year in college, I took a class that helped open my eyes to the inequity that occurs in the media. Being a journalism major, this was a required class for all students. While this class centered around journalism, I now understand that I could apply what I learned to teaching. Filmmakers and television producers have historically depicted cultural stereotypes in the media. This has led to the misconceptions of many different cultures existing within society. Many times, producers will cast a white individual in a role that should be reserved for an individual more fitting for the role. For example, Johnny Depp played Tonto in The Lone Ranger. These media choices have left out the narratives of so many different people. In order to create inclusion in my classroom, I would like to relinquish stereotypes and create a comfortable learning environment for all people. I would like to incorporate diversity into my course material and teach my students about key figures and cultures that have helped promote social justice. I will try to include as many diverse narratives as possible while still following the course's learning expectations. Growing up in a diverse community where a melting pot of different cultures called Rancho Cucamonga home, I learned about the importance of accepting and understanding people different than myself. My teachers made sure to create a multicultural environment where everyone was treated with the greatest amount of respect. In middle school and high school, the administration created a culture where there was no tolerance for bullying and it was uncool to participate in it. These experiences helped show me that in order to learn in a classroom, the first step necessary is to feel included. The second that a student feels disrespected or uncomfortable, they will often completely turn their minds off. Ultimately, my educational philosophy of inclusion and acceptance was created due to my wonderful K-12 experience. Another part of my educational philosophy is the benefits of working in small groups. Working in small groups can help students learn about their peers and help strengthen their understanding of course material. Building relationships with classmates can help them develop solutions to problems that are going on in class. It will also provide students the ability to relate and understand people better. I enjoy the idea of mixing up the groups so that students can work with new people every time. I would like everyone in the class to feel comfortable enough to share their knowledge with any student. At APU so far, the ideas of inclusion and equity have echoed throughout all of my classes. It has reinforced my pedagogy and my educational philosophy to make school a sacred place. When an individual is young, they believe they can do anything that they set their mind to. I want to instill that message in the hearts of my students and hopefully make them believe that forever. Thanks for listening to this episode of Jordan's Journey. God bless you all.